The Holy Grail is the second chapter of King Arthur and His Knights, compiled and arranged by Elizabeth Lodor Merchant. The cup itself, okay, the book squeaks, from which our Lord drank at the last sad supper with his own, this the good saint Arimathaan Joseph, journeying brought to Glastonbury, where the winter thorn blossoms at Christmas, mindful of our Lord. Well, Curie originally could have been used as spiritual master, and I will agree that he was some sort of spiritual master. Long before Merlin was born, there lived in an eastern country a good and holy man called Joseph. Of course, he's called Joseph now. You can't say the J sound in that language. Yusuf. He had for many years been the guardian of a wonderful cup. The original story is a stone. Nobody quite knew whence his cup had first come, nor who had made it, nor what gave it the lovely radiance which always surrounded it and made it look more beautiful than any fairy goblet set with emeralds and pearls. Well, you could definitely have some elements of holy cup stories, but this story descended from a holy stone story. But all Joseph's friends knew that the cup was a great treasure, and that only a good and faithful man could have been chosen as its guardian. So they honored and respected Joseph and talked reverently of the precious chalice of which he had taken the care. This cup was called the Grail cup, and sometimes Joseph would summon his children and his grandchildren, for he is quite an old man, and the best loved of his friends, to take their seats at a silver table which he himself had made, in the middle of which he would set the Grail cup. Then, while everyone looked at the shining mist in which the cup was half hidden, Joseph would tell another good man, called Allen, whom he loved very dearly, to go to a certain stream and catch a silver fish that he would see swimming about in the clear water. Allen would go willingly, and however often he went, he always saw the silver fish gleaming and flashing among the singing bubbles of the stream. He would catch the fish and brought it to the bright table to show to Joseph, who would then tell him to take it and broil it on a fire of clear embers. When this was done, Allen served the fish to the people who sat about the silver table. No matter how many there were to be fed, there always was enough, and when the feast was over, all who had shared in it felt revived, contented, and joyful, strongful to do what was right and to resist what was wrong. They would go away glad and grateful, wondering how it was that Allen could always catch so magical and marvelous a fish. They never really understood the secret which belonged to Allen and Joseph alone, but they gave Allen the name of a rich fisher, and as the rich fisher he had been known for many hundreds of years. So it happened that month after month the silver table was spread, the Grail cup was displayed, and the mysterious fish was served by the rich fisher. But wicked men ruled the country in which Joseph lived, and they had already once thrown him into the prison because he would not give up his cup. They were again plotting against him, when one day as he worked in his garden he was visited by a beautiful spirit who told him that he must take the Grail to a distant country called West over the Sea. Joseph asked how this could be done. For, said he, I am only a gardener and a worker in the cornfields. I have no ship in which to voyage, nor sailor friends to manage its oars and sails. The bright spirit, however, bade him have faith and not be afraid. He was trustfully to set off with his children and his friends, and they were to carry the silver table and the shining cup with them. Then the vision faded away among vines and dark cedar trees, and Joseph went into his house, and sending for the rich fisher, told him and everyone else to make ready for the journey. Well, they set off as soon as they could. Joseph, the rich fisher, and their children, their friends, with tender care, he carried the silver table, and Joseph bore the shining cup in a casket set with hundreds of precious stones. After traveling for many days, they reached the seashore. There lay the deep blue ocean ahead of them, rosy purple in the far distance and overhung with the clouds of sunset that, delicate and golden, looked like enchanted islands. One of these, everybody felt quite sure, must be the home chosen for the Grail Cup, but between them and the enchanted islands of the sunset, the sea rolled its long, murmuring, restless waves. Not a sail was to be seen, not a single boat rocked the green furrows near the shore. Joseph stood at the edge of the water, perplexed and wondering, and the sunset light fell on his white underrobe and scarlet mantle. As he stood with everybody silently watching him, a voice suddenly floated across the shore. "Take off your white underrobe, Joseph," said the voice, "and spread it upon the sea." Joseph bowed his head, and while his people gazed in wonder, he took off his white underrobe and, stepping into the ripples, spread the soft, finely sewn linen out upon the water, and it floated like a beautiful raft, spreading wider and wider on the waves, and Joseph heard the voice a second time, falling as musically as the song of a bird through the quiet evening air. "Step forward and take your stand upon it, and let all your people follow you." Joseph moved forward, and lifting high the casket which held the Grail Cup, stepped upon this strange white boat. The linen garment was firm to his feet, and rocked up and down like a strong ship at anchor. He stood there, fearless and upright. He called to all his people to join him. For twos and threes they came, amazed but trustful, bringing with them the silver table, while Joseph still held up the casket in which the shining cup was safely hidden. I think it was a Beltane night. I had a very interesting vision of a series of cups representing a spiritual lineage. While Joseph still held the cup and the casket in which the shining cup was safely hidden, room was found for everyone upon the floating white robe, and the silver table was set in the very middle. Then, as soon as his people had gathered around Joseph, some strange power stirred up the quiet ripples of the sea. The linen robe began to move from the shore, and in the very few minutes the keeper of the Grail Cup, Alan the rich fisher, and all their children and grandchildren found themselves traveling swiftly and